membership meeting for July 27th, 2022. And let's do a roll call. Actually, David, do you see, is Melissa on? Do we have our recording secretary?
I do not, but let me keep scrolling. I've got 2 pages of attendees. It's long.
I don't see her yet either.
No.
Bear with us. Let me see if I can get Melissa on here. All right, real quick, board members, does someone want to volunteer to take? Well, I guess we're recording it, David, right? We'll just send that to Melissa and let her do the minutes from the recording. Okay, so do board member roll call real quick. We've got David Bolney on, Swin Swinford, Marlene Fox. Going through here, Ann Lindner, Paula Garrett. I saw Jeremy a second ago. Yep, Jeremy Freeman is on. I believe we were missing Melissa Eberly and Kevin Downs. All right, so our first thing on our agenda is to have additions, changes, deletions to agenda. We'll actually open this up also to members. So if you know on Zoom how to raise your hand and you want to add something to the agenda that we don't already have on it, you can raise your hand and bring it up, or you can put it in the chat and put it in the chat, and then I'll bring it up. So any additions, changes, deletions to the agenda? Board members, community. Okay, I'm going to add one because it's a little bit broader topic than what we have on the agenda. We can just really tack it on. So under agenda item 11, I've got fire district collaboration. B is project to protect beach accesses from golf carts. We'll piggyback that discussion once we've talked about beach accesses to the general discussion of golf cart incidences on the island, because I know people want to talk about that. Do I have a motion from a board member to add that item to the agenda? David, does everyone know they can unmute?
I motion.
I motion.
Kevin moved, I second.
Can't hear you, Bill. Maybe something's wrong with my. Can
I said
someone say something?
Kevin moved,
I
I
don't think I
second.
can hear anyone.
I'm not muted.
All right. David or Bill, can y'all say something?
Yep. Can you hear
There we
me?
go.
Yeah.
I got you now.
All
I
right.
got you now.
I just thought you muted me.
Yeah. So do we have an official
I seconded.
motion to add that?
Kevin motioned and I seconded, I think.
Okay, cool. We will add that to the agenda. All right, so next is public comment on agenda items. Does anyone in the public have a specific comment before we get to the actual agenda items? You'll have a chance to comment as we're going through them. Nope. All right, we'll go into approve our minutes from our June 1st board meeting. I'm going to keep these first few items very fast because I know that we want to get to sort of wider discussion about some topics. Board members, anyone have any feedback on the board meeting minutes from June 1st? Do you want to bring up any changes or anything, issues?
Move we approve.
Say that again.
I said I move, we approve.
I second.
I think most of us
Second.
went through the minutes a month and a half ago.
Yeah, so all in favor of approving the minutes of the board meeting from June 1st? Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, approved. Next is the treasurer's report, Bill Fry.
So I posted all of the details for the things that we've accomplished. The highlights are that the new Bluevine account is up and running. We've gotten $145, almost $145 in interest for June and for May and June. They pay it on the first of the following month. And I estimate that we'll start earning about $120 to $125 a month, depending on how many days are in the month itself. The second part is the balance sheet. I listed all the different accounts. There's 18,700 and change in the checking account, 101,324 and change in the island access. So the UCCA total has $120,026.57. We also gained access for the first time in 3 years, I think, to the Upper Captiva Community Center Foundation, the 501c3, and that account has $5,405.40. The Truist accounts, and the reason we started the Bluevine account in the first place, Truist accounts are paying almost nothing in interest, and I'm getting 1.5% per year on the Bluevine accounts. Subject to questions. That's really all I was gonna cover.
Cool. I just want to thank you for getting control of all the accounts, getting it in order. It's good to have. All right, no questions for Bill Fry, the treasurer, or any questions about his reports? All that information is on the website under the meeting portal, so you can look at the P&L and everything there if anyone has. I will move on to the next, which is a recap of our chemical and electronics recycling event. I'll keep it quick. In mid-May, we had what we think is the first island-wide chemical and electronics recycling event. We had upwards of about 50 homeowners participate in that. We filled up a U-Haul full of old paint, gasoline, pesticides, just all sorts of old nasty stuff, and removed that from the island, got it over to the Lee County Recycling Center. Additionally, we filled up a trailer full of old electronics, televisions, printers, computers, routers, all sorts of stuff. We view the event as very successful, knowing that there are upwards of 380 homes. We feel that we will do this twice a year because we know not everyone, was available in the May event to put things together and do it. So our next one will be in October around the homeowners week and everything. So, and then tagged on to the end of that chemical and recycling event, we did a traditional island cleanup where a large part of the community hit the roads and the beaches with trash bags and did a general delittering of the island. So overall, really successful event. We're really happy with it. Questions? I know a lot of y'all participated in it. Questions or feedback about that event? Nope. Cool. We will move on. Quick update on the LCEC infrastructure project. It is not fully broken ground yet. They're still working on their permitting with the Florida DEP, but they expect to really start work on that project in the next month or two. If you live on the last 3 Shell Streets and then the portion of Rum Road and Gulf Lane, they encompass those 3 streets, you probably see wood stakes up and down the utility easements along those roads. That is where the work is going to be done. The biggest thing to know about that, well, there's a couple things to know about that. Just a reminder, if you're on those streets and really through the next couple of years as they do the project, you need to go into your LCEC accounts, make sure your email address and your phone number are in your account, your mobile phone number. They will use that information to reach out to you. They'll send text messages. Hey, we're about to start working on Panama Shell. You know, if they're about to do something in front of your house, you actually might get a direct message. Hey, we're about to start working on 4450 Panama Shell. So make sure your info is updated. And then if you have one of their green boxes on your property, the transformer kind of boxes, those are the main things that are going to get replaced. They're going to be boring under, replacing all the lines on the island, but they don't view the boring as being very disruptive. But if you have one of the green boxes on your property, they're going to be working in a 12-foot area around, all the way around those boxes. So if you have landscaping, if you have trees, if you have anything there, that stuff probably needs to be removed before they start the project if you want to keep it. Otherwise, I mean, they'll do their best, but things around those boxes will likely get destroyed. Naturally, the update on LCEC. Questions there?
I think one thing, Swin, for the audience, there is a letter that was written to you from LCEC and is posted in the meeting documents. So those will be available and moved over to the meeting archive along with the recording of this meeting once this is over. So that should stay there just in case people want to read a little bit more detail straight from LCEC.
Yeah, and David, do you think we can put a link to that letter on the town hall little subsection?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, because there's already one from LCEC on that town hall, sure.
Yeah, so you can always go to the town hall section, find the LCEC town hall, and get back to info on the LCEC as well. Cool. Anything else on LCEC? Nope, we'll move forward. All right, next is the Upper Captiva Community Center Foundation update. Bill Fry gave just a quick thing on that. There's a bank account with roughly $5,000 in it. That entity was set up in the early 2000s with the idea that the community would start saving to possibly build a community center as a nonprofit community center. Nothing has ever moved on that. As far as I know, Bill, you can probably chime in, that $5,000 has been there earning, cents of interest for 20 years.
My suspicion is it was more than what's in the account now, because each year there's a $60 or $70 annual filing fee with the state to keep the corporation current. And it was created in 2001. So in 21 years, I don't have all bank statements going back that far, but my suspicion is it's had money go into it. It's had $70 a year go out at minimum, and it's got that, I think what I said, $5,400 in it now. So it's kind of, and it's been it was abandoned for 3 years until we got it brought back under our control between Fran and Helen.
Cool. So the complicated thing about the UCCCF is that it's a different organization than UCCA. There seemingly are no documents that really tell us how to run it. We're sort of winging it off of what UCCA has done over the past decade, where UCCA basically makes the officers of UCCA the officers of the Upper Captiva Community Center Foundation. We feel, that it just needs to be dissolved and sort of go away. And the complicated thing there is it is a 501c3. UCCA is a 501c4. You cannot donate money from a 501c3 to a 501c4. It can only go to another 501c3. So we can't just say, hey, just write a check over to UCCA and close that thing down. So the officers of UCCF met this past Sunday, and this next Wednesday, when we have our UCCA board meeting, we'll make a recommendation to dissolve that foundation. And we'll give two options to the board. One is to donate the funds to other 501c3 organizations that serve the island. And we're open to member suggestions. So if you know a 501c3 on the island, we've identified 4. Feel free to reach out to any board member. You can go to the Upper Captiva Civic Association.org website, click on the board, reach out to any of us with a suggestion of where to donate those funds. Option 2 would be to donate those funds to SCCF with a requirement that SCCF spend the funds on a future Upper Captiva land purchase. I reached out to SCCF to see if they would accept that donation with that stipulation, and I'm waiting to hear back. But that is the plan as of now, and the UCCA board will take that up next week at its board meeting. Questions about that? Nope. Anyone? Nope. Just making sure in the
As a reminder, while Swin is
so
looking-
Carrie, if you miss it, so it's the Upper Captivas Community Center Foundation. Okay. All right. If no questions there, we'll move on to committee updates, and we'll start with Ann Linder and Government Affairs.
Yes, and so a couple of things from me this month. Number one, it was extremely busy month for the Lindner family, and so I didn't quite have the time I would normally be able to dedicate to it. But also the Lee County Commissioners, the last meeting that we had, there really was only 1.5 meetings from the county commissioners, and that's what I've got for this month.
Cool. Any questions from the committee for Ann?
She cut out when she was talking. It was only a few words at a time. Can you just kind of repeat or recap what she was saying, please?
And can you summarize real quick again?
Yeah, what I said was that the Lee County Commissioners took the month of July off. There were no meetings from them. And there was only 1.5 meetings since our last meeting in June. And they were focused on budget only. So really nothing of significant interest for us in that regard.
Okay. Anything else for Ann in Government Affairs? All right, we'll move on. Communication, David Bowlby.
Yep. So since our last general membership meeting, continued with website updates, supporting the communications with emails, notices of meetings. We did our recycling and cleanup event notices, updated and since it's getting to be summertime, or was going to be getting to be summertime. Now it's almost in the middle of summer. All the links are up on the website for reporting mosquito issues, checking out the mosquito treatment map, the LCEC power outage map, and how to reporting it online, an outage if we are out. So if you're on your phone and you have an outage or you want to check on those things, you can always look at our website, and there's those links there to help you kind of navigate that. Let's see, we did, I continued to support like new members as they've been added. We added some new members clearly through renewals through the 2 events that we had. We've had a couple additional just new members join lately. When that happens, then there's some follow-up that has to happen to make sure they're on the right list for emails of electronic newsletters or other things like that. So continue to support that effort. Currently, there are 136 active 2022 UCCA members. And there are 505 active emails addresses subscribed to our UCCA subscription list. So people get email blasts from UCCA. So the only thing that's really kind of ongoing for me is investigating a replacement for our website template, the kind of the tool that's used to create the website. The old one's kind of out of date. There's a new replacement from that same provider. So there'll be some heavy lift for me to kind of recreate the website between now and the end of the year. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. Any questions for David and UCCA Communications? All right, we'll move on. Next committee is membership and revenue generation. Melissa, are you taking that one today?
Kevin, are you going to give the update or you want me to? Is
All
Kevin
yours.
on?
You have all the info. I'll help you if
Thanks.
you need.
Thanks. Okay, so yeah, we've met to talk a couple times. So I'm hoping most people have seen some of our, well, if you're on social media, you've seen some of our requests for recipes for a recipe book that we're putting together. We're still trying to figure out the cheapest option. We got a couple options on how to print our print house and all this stuff and how to get the information from you all. We've already received quite a few email recipes, messages, texts, and even some on paper and through the US mail. So that's really nice that people are getting the word. We're gonna try and appeal more to some of the visitors and guests to our page that come here frequently, and they have some great ideas on, hey, when we're there, this is, what we throw in the crock pot, so at the end of the day, we, have a great meal at the end of the day, or cocktails and such. We talked about placing these books for sale. We're hoping by October that we can get them printed and start selling them. So we've got our homeowners event that we can target there. And also we're talking to some of the stores on the island who might be able to present them. So we're gonna have, we've got some ideas we're gonna try and budget for to see how we can make a presentation. So are we gonna put a basket out? Or are we gonna put a box? How are we gonna help them market, not and just throw our books at them and say, hey, sell them for us. So, so that's stuff that are in the works. If you guys have any ideas or, somebody, definitely reach out to me and let me know. So, let me see, sorry. We talked about the chili cook-off in October. We're gonna start really sending out, some emails, and we're gonna try and separate our emails so that you can focus on one thing at a time. And so for the chili cook-off, it's October 19th. Entrants are free. It's going to be at the firehouse, and it's going to be from 4 to 6, October 19th. We're going to have a fee. We're going to sell tickets for people to enter. You're going to get cornbread, beer, water. We're talking about all the organizing of that, and some prizes for the best chili. We'll give you more updates to see via email and social media. We've also got we have planned a house tour that will hopefully end up with a wine tasting. We're still talking about how to do that. We'll sell 100 tickets. So it'll kind of, homeowners and those showing off their lovely gardens aren't going to have like 1,000 people traipsing through their place. So, so we've been working on that. And I think, oh, and also we're working on how people can pay for some of these events. We're on social media and people are paying for stuff online. So are we going to do our PayPal on the website? How are we going to take care of that? So we'll, when you guys get an email from the UCCA, they'll have more information about how we've figured out how to collect money from you.
Cool.
All right, Kevin, how'd I do?
Excellent as always. You got it all.
All right.
Melissa,
Anyone have questions for Melissa or Kevin regarding upcoming community events or membership?
I see Leslie raising her hand.
Leslie? Christy and I were talking how fun it would be to do like a progressive dinner party along the lines of recipes and chili cook-offs.
just at some point, that would be fun.
Well, I have been asking to taste test every recipe that's in there, so I will be very busy with that.
Are you
No.
still accepting recipes?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're
Yes.
gonna accept them. We're gonna confirm this, but I believe we'll accept them until September 1st. So that gives us time to put everything together and get it printed and to everybody. So
Awesome, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Lisa Walker? Lisa, you're muted. David, you?
Hey.
There she is.
Sorry, guys. I don't know if this is the right time or if I should wait till the end, but since you were talking about dates for the chili cook-off, I just want to make sure that the homeowners that are on here are aware of the homeowners party on October 22nd. Is that supposed to be like the end?
Yep. Good
All right.
stuff.
I'll wait.
All good. All right, so next is, we'll move on to community and Paula Garrett. Paula, where are you?
Hello.
There you are.
So with the community, is everybody hearing me?
You're a
Sorry,
little
I'm
distant.
traveling. Can you hear me yet?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So as far as the community updates, we have a couple things going on. We had started a committee that we got some community involvement with for putting together a community calendar so that everybody can see what's going on. And if they want to add an event, they can reach out to one of us and we can add it onto the calendar. It includes like the homeowners week events, the parades that are going on, like the 4th of July activities, the New Year's Eve fun run, anything. And I think there's going to be a Halloween scavenger hunt also going on. That's on the calendar. We had Rachel, Swin, Ann Taylor, Candy, Melissa, Laura, Teresa, and Marlene are on that committee, helping to organize that community calendar. We hope to have it posted on UCCA and social media soon. And then the other thing that we're working on is the guidebook, the Renter's Guidebook. I have a copy of a draft ready to give to the board on Wednesday to take a look at and see what content we want to change or add. It's really exciting. It turned out really cool. It has wildlife information on it about the island. It has rules recommendations, ferry services, taxi services, a lot of useful information that will help renters, and especially all the new homeowners who are coming on board. And with this guidebook, it'll have a general area for North Captiva with all that useful information, and then you can get in contact with TouchStay. There'll be a special link. You can get in touch with them and you can customize it to your home for $100 a year, and you'll be able to send it out to your renters with all of your information. I use it, Swin uses it. I think Kevin and Melissa are going to be using it. They had reached out to Andy at TouchStay already. So we will be posting that, I believe, on UCCA and sending it out via email with the link to view it. If anybody has any recommendations, definitely let us know. And I think that's about it.
Cool. I'll add on to just the talk of the guidebook. In addition to the touch stay version, we will create sort of a content dump of that information on the UCCA website, because we know not everyone will want to sign up for a subscription, or everyone's got sort of their own things. But look, the overall goal of that guidebook is to answer the questions that everyone asks when they're coming to the island. I think, most people probably see tons of those on the North Captiva Island or North Captiva Island visitors groups, everything from, just, the logistics of getting here. But it's a way for us to also really insert, those community standards, right? That you're coming to vacation in a residential neighborhood, talk about noise. We'll talk about golf carts, talk about golf carts on beaches, and just, general sort of acceptable behavior, when you're here. This isn't a cruise that you're coming to. It's not wild, crazy. So that's really the goal of this visitor guide is twofold: to put out some great information, make it easier for those who do rent their homes to put out great information, but to also put those community standards in front of visitors before they get here. So it's tough, because it's definitely easy to assume that everyone should know not to drive on our beaches. But in Daytona, Florida, in Galveston, Texas, you can pull your Ford F-150 right up on the beach and put your tent out, right? So I don't think we can assume that everyone should know. We have to tell them before they get here and everything. So that's part of the goal of that project. Any questions from the community for Paula on the community committee and those projects? Cool. All right, so we'll move on to our next item, get more into the nitty gritty. So fire district collaboration. I reached out to Chief Martin. Well, we have good ongoing dialogue all the time, but we spoke a few weeks ago. We've been talking for months actually about doing a fire district town hall, not too dissimilar from the town hall we did with the Lee County Sheriff's Office. And then we did a couple on the Safe Harbor development, and then with LCEC. It's that moment for the chief to get, on a Zoom, get on a meeting in front of the entire community, spend, 90 minutes, 2 hours, if whatever it takes, and answer questions that everyone has. So like most of our town halls, we have given the chief some questions in advance. We're going to give them some more. We'll publish an FAQ in the weeks before that town hall, so that the sort of low-hanging fruit questions that can be answered by just reading a couple of sentences, everyone can see those. And then we'll have that town hall with the chief on October 5th. One thing the chief wants to get out in front of is the special assessment as part of the fire district's funding that will be on the November ballot and everything. He wants to be able to get in front of everyone and talk about that, answer any questions. It'll be a good time for us to ask everything from fire pits to whatever you want to ask the chief. Cool. Any questions about the town hall coming up? All right, let's jump to our project to protect beach accesses from golf carts. So the chief and I have been talking for weeks about this. We're aware of the issue. Let's sort of focus on, we'll focus this conversation and then everyone's input on the beach accesses first, and then we'll let it roll into general golf cart incidences and behavior. So on the accesses, I reached out to the chief to basically ask him to collaborate with UCCA on coming up with a solution to block golf cart access from our beaches, but we need his input because we can't block emergency vehicles. And so I'm going to ask the chief to sort of jump in here and sort of talk with me about this as we go through it. But I think there's probably one big misnomer on emergency vehicles, and I'll let the chief clarify it, but I don't think we're talking emergency vehicles like the big engine and the ambulance. Those would have trouble on our beaches. When a fire happens on our island, when a house is burning, it's the ATV that actually has to get down those accesses and is pulling hose. They're getting hosed down to the water and everything. So it's a big thing that we've got to be able to work out if we're going to sort of prevent the golf carts, which I think everyone wants. The fire district's got to have an easy way of it. The other thing is a lot of people are like, fire department, help us. Unfortunately, our fire district is not our municipality. They don't really have the role of figuring out our beach accesses and protecting turtles and wildlife and everything. They look at it from an emergency services perspective. So while I think the fire district will give us some consult on, hey, don't do that because we won't be able to get our gear past it, they're not going to lead the charge on this and go do it. But I'll let Chief Martin chime in and kind of speak to some of this.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Swin is exactly right. We don't need to get most of our equipment down to the surf and the beach areas. The only two vehicles that are a major concern for us are the UTV and two of the big military trucks. The big military trucks can go over some stationary obstacles safely. Obstacles that would pose a real problem for a golf cart. Swin and I spoke a couple of times on it, and I proposed maybe something along the line of a railroad tie type of obstruction, or even a small 2 or 3 collection of them. Something that we can drive over, but is going to pose an obstacle for golf carts. We talked again, and Swin had let me know that they can be easily moved by a determined individual. So I got to thinking about that as well. One of the solutions I was thinking of would be to use a longer length of timber like that. Instead of maybe 8 or 10 feet long, maybe 12 to 14 feet long. Again, we would have no trouble getting over it, but they would sure have a heck of a time trying to move that obstacle. I might draw some ire here, but with our end of the road accesses, we certainly wouldn't be able to do this with every access on the island, but using Escondido or some of our streets that dead end into the beach, mostly the Gulf side, I'd be willing to put a sign up there stating that it's a fire lane and that, that obstruction of this is prohibited, put our name on it. Now, we realize that's private property, but it is a community-wide agreement that is a fire lane. We need that for fire protection. So we'd have the signage there. The sign in the sand, again, would pose no difficult obstacle for my truck to get over that. However, for as many times as I've needed to do that versus how many days go by between those instances, a sign like that, along with the obstacles, would pose quite an obstacle for the typical golf cart. The typical golf cart people and the people that we have that are infringing on our beaches like that. The other part of that, and I spoke with Mike Sawicki with that, once we designate that, mark that as the district's fire lane, he has some authority to push the violator on obstructing a fire lane, because that is against the law. It is marked. We would mark it with the sign. We would put an obstacle there in case the sign disappears. But anyway, that was my thought moving forward with it. Again, because it's private property, I think we should obviously have our civic association look into that and support us with that. We're willing to partner with you in doing that. But I think it's important we have a consensus from the property owners, especially the ones that are right there, to see how they thought or what they thought, and if they had ideas to stop this.
So Jason, one comment is drill a hole and put 4 feet of rebar into the sand.
We could do that. Again, I'm looking for good, ideas from the residents and the community. My only fear with rebar would be if it held it down too much and we had a big influx of sand, it may in fact get buried, and over time, and pose no obstacle with them and actually give them a ramp. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it's not a bad idea at all. When things flood, they tend to float away. So there's, good and bad for both of it.
Candy?
I had suggested on Facebook earlier, and I think some good comments followed about possibly planting seagrass at the end of some lanes. I don't know that all of them would work, but if you had 4 feet, say 4 feet deep of seagrass planted across the road with maybe a 2 foot, 3 foot wide path for people to walk from the road onto the beach, it wouldn't stop some of these idiots, but maybe it would keep them from thinking that is a way that they can go down there. And it would be more attractive than, say, a bunch of railroad pilings and that sort of thing, and not something that they could move.
And do you mean
I think it's a great idea.
I'm sorry, not sea grapes, because I don't think the chief would think that would be something they could run over easily. But sea grass, and if you look at the beach access at both of the private beach access points that are down there on, what is that, Gulf Lane, Schooner Beach access, for example.
Yep.
Quite a few feet of seagrass that you have to meander through to get to the beach. And I know that there's a fence up there, but if it was only seagrass, I don't think people would attempt to drive through that.
I think that's a great idea. And maybe and that's kind of why I wanted to attend here, and Swin encouraged me to do so. All of us have ideas. I think that's an excellent idea. I never thought of it. We don't want to mar up the landscape and, harden it, and maybe the answer is using both of them. Use the seagrass to, cover, the ties or whatever we decide. But I love the idea of the grass, because I think you're right. I think it would totally hinder those on a golf cart, and I could get over it with any of the vehicles that I needed to, and it would be easy if we happen to destroy it or, cause it harm, to replant that and put it back in place. I think it's a really good idea.
Lacey and then Marlene. Lacey.
So I was thinking even one step further from the seagrass, because I really like that idea too, because aesthetically it's more pleasing than a bunch of railroad ties. But what I've seen and what we've done with security at like really, really like $30 million homes down on the Strand in Naples, they use anti-personnel landscaping. I almost wonder if maybe using plants that have those razor sharp edges, make it a little bit, because honestly, seagrass, I see these 18-year-old yahoos flying over that stuff. But if they go through this other type of thing and get their legs scraped, they won't get far. They won't want to get far. I mean, we'd have to be careful because obviously if people are walking through there, you don't want them, you don't want someone's kid getting,
Yeah, you got a lot of walking ingress and egress through that area.
And I'm not on the island. I'm not visualizing exactly where you guys are talking about, but just a thought.
Pretty much the end of every street from, Sierra down, through Escondido. And then, really I think the other big offending area is, it's private access, but it's right next to the state entrance between Panama Shell and Butterfly Shell. I think those are the main entryways, unless people are seeing other. Marlene?
I like the idea of the vegetation also, but I was also thinking along with the vegetation, something we have a lot of on the island is sand and shells. What if we did a barrier, maybe 3 feet high, of sand and shells, and did the vegetation in the front or in the back? The ATV trucks could go right over a 3-foot sand wall, but a golf cart couldn't.
I think we're on the right track here, if I may. I think really the more I think about it, vegetation might be our best option. I think of Escondido as kind of a narrower point, but then I think of the North Airport Road as being much wider. We wouldn't be limited by the length of lumber or anything like that. We could simply plant that grass across and obviously leave footpaths through it. But then we could go as wide or as narrow as we needed to at any point where we wanted to do so. I think it's a really good idea.
Cool. David?
So I frequently go down to the beach on this direction, kind of see those things moved, that are on our end. But I think one of the users of that is the Sea Turtle, their high-end golf cart. And so they're making access to the beach for that purpose as well. So whatever we do, if that stops that process, I'm not sure, if there's some need for discussion with the folks tending to the Sea Turtles or not, because whatever you do for a golf cart will likely stop their vehicle as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, perhaps. Other than they can actually get through the state land entrance and then actually get down to the beach through a couple of areas. Can they
Not our end, they can't.
They can't get down there? There's
no.
Okay.
Because generally there's not beach enough for them to get from all the way down. You know what I'm saying? They're accessing it on this end. So
right.
When I see cart tracks, I'm usually jazzed up, try to move the things back, but then some of those times it's the Sea Turtle crew, and I don't want to block them from getting what they need done. So
so there's a few questions in the chat from who would pay for it, who would maintain it. So let's talk about our crazy little island and the fact that none of our roads are public and they're all private easements. I give you an easement to roll over the road in front of my house that I own in exchange for you to roll over, me to roll over the one in front of your home to get to and from places on the island. So each and every one of those beach accesses is privately owned by 2 homeowners who are on either side of it. They create a private roadway easement that basically terminates, entering the beach. So without the knee-jerk reaction of course I'd do it because it's your idea, Candy. And I think I saw Linda McDonald. So you two own right across from each other on Oro Pesos. If you guys weren't on this call, you weren't involved, you didn't know anything about it, and then someone suddenly came and created a 3-foot mound barrier and did all this seagrass and like that, what would you think without informing you or anything?
I guess it's a good question, but I mean, it's public access, right? It's not my private.
Well, no, it's not public access. I mean, it is in a way that it's prescriptive easement access for the public, because the public has been using those accesses for decades. But it's not necessarily public access for you to change the landscape on the land or to even insert a sign in it. So that's the thing about our island, right? So in one sense, we're messing with private property. But just like I mentioned to Matthias online yesterday, when he was like, oh, it'd be great to have a stop sign here. You know, how do we go about doing that? I'm like, go buy a stop sign and put it in, because that's what everyone does. You just do whatever the hell you're going to do because it needs to be done. And so that's the complicated thing about true organization of this, right? The fire district, most especially because they're an actual municipality, if they like headed this up, they would have to get legal to look at, like, could you guys actually go do this? From a UCCA standpoint, we don't have the municipal aspect of it, but I think it would be the proper flow for us to approach the owners at the end of each of those accesses and go, look, we want to keep, golf carts from here. We're doing this at the end of each street. Hey, owner here, can we come do this? And I think mostly we would get the thumbs up, but I think that we would owe that to those owners to say, we want to do this at the end of your street. I mean, look, some people do it themselves. I can't remember what street it is, Hidden Lane or Hodgepodge. At the end of those, the two owners have hedges. It gets really skinny down there, and then they've got, no parking and no access private property signs. It's super narrow down there. I can't even imagine a cart could get down that one. Hey, Carrie, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's a good idea to ask the people who own around the access points. I'm just curious, who is going to be responsible for planting these, for purchasing the seagrass? Like, are we going to put together a committee where people volunteer? Is there going to be funds that are raised to do it? Like, there's the logistics of actually doing this.
Yeah, so I think that this will come up in our UCCA board meeting next week. And if it's something that a majority of the board think that UCCA should tackle, which I personally think sounds like a civic association type project to me, then we would, we put the project together. We'd figure out how we're going to fund it, whether it was through private donations or sort of like, community wide, hey, everyone pitch in kind of thing. And then we would, get with the right people and make sure that we're buying the, right stuff to plant, and that we're not going to go buy something that's just going to die in 6 months, and come up with a plan. Probably do one to start with, right, and see how it looks and works, and then just build on from there. But for me, that's a huge part of what UCCA is here for and should be part of. Bill?
I think Jason may have hit on the right way a partnership like this would work, because it's likely going to be the UCCA that has to fundraise or pay for it out of existing funds, because you can't use fire district money, I don't think. But as we all know, it's private property. But Jason told you that as part of this process, he's willing to identify those areas as designated fire lanes, which then means that Lee County Sheriff's Office can cite people that park and leave their golf carts at the end of that road, blocking that lane. So you've got property owners at the very end of each of those roads that have put their own signs up, that have had people tear their signs out, that have run over their signs and still park at the end. So my feeling is, as part of this partnership, is that presumably the UCCA will decide how it's going to pay for it. And the fire district and UCCA and the owners will decide what the solution looks like. And then if the owners will allow it to be placed on their private property, Jason, I think, has said that he'll designate that as a fire lane, and LCSO will enforce the no parking, which keeps the
That's a
golf
huge
carts off.
carrot for those owners.
That's what I'm thinking. So it's a win-win. And all of us want to keep golf carts off the beach. I do not believe it's against Florida law or even Lee County ordinance. As Swin said when we started this discussion, at Daytona, I know Destin, I know Jacksonville, you can drive on the beaches, you can park on the beach. I've seen pictures of cars floating away as the tide comes in. I don't believe it's against Lee County ordinance to park on the beaches other than in the state park. But they pretty well block that, because on the state park, as you recall, down at the end of Rum, there is a locked gate, and only a handful of folks on the island, like the turtle monitors, have keys to that, and the fire district have keys to that gate. So to me, it just seems like it's not that difficult to figure out a way to make it palatable for the property owners to agree, because they don't want the golf carts parked at the end of their road. Most of us don't want the golf carts on the beach, and to me, it's kind of a win-win.
David?
Yeah, I was going to look up the actual language in the Upper Captiva plan, community plan, on beaches and access. And although it does, kind of try to address that, and it's pretty squishy language, there's no method of enforcement or no penalties or anything outlined. So I really think it's really useless to us.
You are correct. And what you're probably not seeing is that in 2018, because I just came across it. Look, I researched this stuff a lot. In 2018, Lee County did a sweeping update of all the community plan language in the Lee plan. And they actually took the line that says golf carts shall not be allowed on the beaches out of our North Captiva plan, part of the Lee plan. So, and they probably took it out because there is no way to enforce it. There's not an enforcement mechanism. Peg? Oh. Wait, y'all are muted. Still muted.
Peggy, you all are muted.
Unmuting.
There you
Okay.
go.
Gotcha.
Thought I hit it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's John Floyd here with Peggy Floyd. And, we're on the north end on White Pelican. And like David, we see the timbers moved a lot to go out to the beach right there. It's the way some folks move timbers. But just want to remind, we put in the chat, that airstrip is wide open. And I've seen carts running up and down the airstrip inappropriately, just driving out to the beach. And that's I think we all agree we want to do this. We want to have more controls and we want it to make it harder, but that's a wide open area. And I don't know what the solution might be with the
Yes,
areas.
so I think it's probably trying to minimize it, right? A burglar who really wants to break into your house is going to break into your house, right? They can do it quietly and easily, or they can throw something through your window and get in, right? So I think we just have to do our best to mitigate, the ease of it. And, look,
well,
like I've said a couple of times, we're on a bridgeless barrier island, but we're not immune from societal bad behavior, unfortunately. And I got to tell you, this last 2 months has been the worst I've seen. It's wow, bad. Bill?
As a reminder, the airstrip is private property owned by Salty Approach LLC. And so if they've got concerns about that, I'm sure they're dealing with LCSO about trespassers and potentially blocking the strip. But the real reason to raise my hand is I wanted to make sure that Jason either agreed or disagreed on what I recapped as what I thought the partnership was, because I didn't hear a response. And I would hate for folks to leave the Zoom thinking that I stupidly said something that turns out no one would agree with, which
No,
happens a
Bill.
lot.
No, Bill, you're right on. I think it's best. The fire lane topic is specifically put together for private property. You go to Walmart or you go to Publix, they have a fire lane. That's private property. It's not on the public roadway. So I think there is our part of our answer. The only caveat is that we need to mark it.
Yeah. Cool. So a lot of comments in the chat. Oh, John, Peggy, you got another comment?
Okay, go ahead.
No, I think we agree that, the airstrip itself, of course, it's private property. And I'm just saying that all the access points should be considered in this plan. And we should work on all the private landowners. That's all.
Every street, if you can.
Yeah, to make it hard for people to get on the beach with their carts.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. So a lot of comments in here. So one is there an opportunity to use UCCA Island Access Funds for this? Presently, no. So the general consensus of the UCCA board is that Island Access Fund was created and funded to actually by dockage, right? To create, to have a way for the community to have access to the island via boat outside of both of the ferries and outside of, having, if you own an individual dock or part of Safety Harbor Club. So I don't think anyone's against reappropriating those funds for something else, but we would have to come up with the right project for that. And then I think we all feel that it would take a member vote to change the allocation of those funds. This planting some seagrass and doing should not be an expensive thing. We should be able to go fundraise this on our own. I think that the Island Access Fund is something I'd like to tackle. There may be some opportunities, over the next few years where we can use that and get some access for people. But anyway, today we can't use that. The other is, just really starting to open up. And so let's talk about general golf cart usage, right? The first thing I'll say is if you weren't on it live in May of 2021, and if you haven't gone and watched it in the last year and few months, please go to Upper Captiva Civic Association.org, scroll down to town halls, click on that, scroll down to the bottom to the Lee County Sheriff's Office Town Hall, and I encourage you to watch it. You will learn a lot. We had our lieutenant who covers our island, Mike Sawicki, on for almost 2 hours. We covered the very first topic we covered was golf carts, right? The number one thing you have to understand about this island, there is no law that governs golf cart usage on this island. Everyone thinks there's this typical, you have to be 16 and licensed driver to drive a golf cart on our island. You do not. There is a Florida state law that says you have to be 14, but that applies to public roadways. Back in 2010, when we got our dark skies ordinance done and we got our Brazilian pepper ordinance done, the community panel back then had a golf cart ordinance written out and in there. The county made them pull it out or they would have lost all the ordinances. The county cannot regulate motor vehicles on private roads. And so it comes down to, we're going to have to regulate ourselves, right? And there are a lot of tiers of things to get across, right? I think everyone's probably super sick and tired of hearing Swin say, chip down your carts. Hey, everyone on the call, chip down your carts. If you're not chipping down your carts, you're part of the problem. You're going too fast. So, you know, the other is, you know, putting it on a lot of responsibility on owners who rent their homes, right? Because generally, I think that the majority of incidences are with renters, right? That's not to say that there's not some owners' kids, you know, that come to the island and go whoop whoop and do things bad too. But I agree with you. I think the owners who rent hold a big responsibility for it. And so that goes down to enforcement, right? And so a lot of people will bring up things, everything from, you know, hey, owners who rent won't enforce against their guests because they're afraid of 1-star review or bad review and all like that. Hey, generally, I think we can agree that most people don't like confrontation. So I get it. There'll be some owners who like, oh, I don't want to deal with the problem. I'll just ignore it. It'll go away. It'll be done in a week, right? I think we can all agree the last couple of months is, I would call it terrorizing on the island, the golf cart usage. I mean, when we were there a few weeks ago, after it rained, I could see all the donuts. I drove the island, you know, for an hour trying to find who was doing all the donuts. I couldn't find it, right? I think we know after the fact, you know, who it was, but it's an age-old problem. The community's been debating it and talking about it for 15 years. There's no law that will happen that will help us. We're going to have to solve it ourselves. So in the chat, there's like, can we, you know, get someone to be a marshal to go confiscate carts? Well, yeah, I guess if there's an entity that will hire a marshal and then homeowners will agree to let their, you know, carts be confiscated by that person, then that can happen. But what I see, and I'll tell you this, I think I'm a responsible owner who rents. I have very strong golf cart language. I have a lot of communication with our guests about it. I'm going to knock on wood. So far, I haven't been on the Instagram of our island, you know, with our guests, you know, ruining things. But our carts are slow, right? And we address the issue. We can set up things like having a marshal, and we can, you know, have a livery company that's going to deliver the carts, and then they can take the responsibility. The owners who don't care, don't care. If those people don't buy into it, then nothing's going to happen. But like I was talking with Kevin Downs, you know, earlier this week, we got to start somewhere, right? So if we start with 13% participation, and then over a year we get it to 21%, and then over 5 years we get it to 56%, it'll help, right? So with that being said, you know, UCCA has been working on a golf cart registry, and I'll let David and or Bill speak to that here in just a minute. I think that we will probably all push hard at our board meeting this next week to like, just let's get that launched. Look, it's a self-regulation tool. The whole idea is that if you have carts, you register those carts. We know you upload pictures of your carts, and then we'll have some sort of numbering system, right? You can put it on there. Someone can easily identify your cart, right? I think if you had something happening with one of your carts, you'd much prefer someone to just call you quickly and go, hey, something's going on with your cart, instead of being on the receiving end of 85 comments, you know, in the Facebook group. I don't think anyone loves, you know, being in that spotlight. And so that's sort of the goal of that registry, is to have it. But we are going to have to get community buy-in to that, right? We got to get people to actually use that registry so we can quickly identify carts. You know, we've talked about some other, you know, things like, you know, I wish someone would start, you know, a livery service, because, you know, in that town hall with Mike Sawicki, you'll hear that, right? So on Captiva, they have that. Captiva, when you rent, because you're mainly renting condos and all, the owners don't have golf carts. So the renters have to go get a golf cart from an independent company. And those companies are hardcore. no one under this age, boom, 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 you'll lose it. We're going to charge you this. And they're a business, right? So they're not connected to the rental. The problem with that on our island is you'd have to have a commercial piece of property to run that business. Few and far between and very expensive on our island. And then you'd have to buy a bunch of golf carts and hope that everyone starts, forcing their renters to just come rent from you, which is a dynamic change because renters are used to, hey, do you include a golf cart? Which most everyone does. So anyway, there are a lot of complexities to the golf cart thing. We want to try to help solve them. We're not going to solve them with a law. Real quick, I'm gonna. So the chip down day, we're gonna have a chip down day. I've already talked to Mike Verona about it. We'll talk to other islands, golf cart companies. It takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to chip down your cart. And so we've talked, Lisa talked to Verona about doing a free chip down your cart day and everything to get people in and do it. I think pretty much almost any of them would do it for free for you if you just reach out to them. Take some comments, Lacey, and then Ann.
So I was just typing, but I've been holding off bringing this up, but I feel like the elephant in the room, like you said, the golf cart issues are complex. Now, I've lived on the island off and on, so I don't live there full time, but I've lived on the island well over a year at different points. And I will tell you, the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about is because it's easier to talk about the renters and the renters' kids driving. And yes, that is a huge problem. But what we saw on the island was a way bigger problem, was the drinking and driving the golf carts. And honestly, that was 99% from what we saw were owners and families of owners on the island. So, we can all talk about like policing this golf cart situation, and I'm not against it at all. It's just, some people I think may be opening Pandora's box. They may be getting a little bit more than what they bargained for because, we were run off the road with our little boy in the trees, after dark, and it was an owner's daughter, 30-year-old teacher. So, and that was like one of many, many incidents we saw. So, we just need to I think everybody needs to kind of think about, everything that this could open up if we start talking about literally, policing, so to speak, the different activities. Because are we really going to pull over a 15-year-old driving, but not the drunk homeowner that's literally like weaving back and forth on the road? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ann?
Yeah, so I mean, I have had a couple of instances where, my kids have been around kids that have been driving recklessly, and I've stepped in and said, I hate to be the mom here, but y'all need to slow down, and here's why you need to slow down. And as I sort of have those conversations with the kids, I think it eventually a light bulb goes off in their head, right? So maybe if we come up with some sort of scary fact sheet, and I think we could all agree that it could be really scary about all of the accidents and all of the people that have been airlifted or boated off the island in the last 2 months, that, it goes into everybody's house and says, here's why you need to follow the golf cart rules. Maybe we scare some kids into slowing down a little bit. Because I honestly believe, guys, they're teenagers, right? They think they're invincible. We're not invincible. And somehow we've got to get through to folks that this is not an arena where you can drive as fast as you can and not worry about the consequences. That's my view. Otherwise, I'm not sure how we change it.
Yeah. So, so just looking at all the comments here. So look, I don't think we get into this thing of it's the kids, it's the drunk adults, it's the island workers. It's all of them. It's all of them. All of them contribute to the problem, right? Like the chief just said, the last golf cart accident was last night and involved a minor who was struck by drunk adults, right? So that that doesn't disqualify that there are tons of teenagers terrorizing or 8-year-olds terrorizing the island driving carts too. So look, from the UCCA standpoint, we'll tackle it again. It's an ongoing discussion every year with UCCA, and we'll just try to come up with, more of a published standard. Everything from, like what Ann just brought up. Look, that's what I send out. I send out a long email talking about it, throwing out the word liability, you're liable, you're liable, you're liable, with a picture of an upside down cart from this island, right, to my guests. So, there's everything from that, from a little bit of the scare tactic to, just informing people, but a lot of it's on us too. I would venture to guess that those carts in the accident last night are fast carts. They're going 18 miles an hour. They're going 20. They're going 24 miles an hour. They're not going 8 to 12 miles an hour. I can tell you from personal experience, an 8 to 12 mile an hour cart, like a couple of those run into each other, it's okay. You might have a little sore neck later, but you're not being turned over. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with it. So other comments on this, like what are suggestions? I don't think things like, having a part-time security person here is super viable. I think it'll be very expensive. I don't know that UCCA is set up to run as a business and to hire that for, like, UCCA doesn't have a payroll, right? UCCA doesn't have workers' comp insurance. You get into that thing, you got to start, looking at that. Maybe if it's a completely private company, but private security is not going to be
Here, there's a hand.
Inexpensive.
We're on mute.
Go ahead. You got a question?
Quick question. Are the Wikes on this?
No, not that I know of. No.
All right. Thank you.
Let's see, there's comments. There's many carts driving at night without their lights on with the teenagers. I watched one drive past the other night, then heard a large crash, most likely Sherman's chipper. They had to push the cart back up the road. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm crazy. Can you hear me?
Yep, Deb. Deborah?
I have one idea, Debbie. Is there like a breakaway chain type thing that a golf cart couldn't get through, but obviously backing a fire truck into it, it wouldn't damage the fire truck or anything else, just break away that chain, with two things on the side that no golf cart could buy.
Yeah, I don't think the chief, when I talked to him, he wasn't really into the chains being across. I think that would also really impair people's ability to just walk easily to the thing. I think, right now, going down this vegetation path is kind of,
not
say that again?
Breakaway chain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
yeah, no worries.
And I thought about it, and that was my idea.
Cool. Kevin?
Thanks, Wynn. I think there's a lot of stuff that we could do, but I think the easiest and most efficient, at least at the moment, would be to focus on a community agreement to chip down our carts. That seems like the easiest and most effective way in the short term to try and curb some of this behavior is to we all agree to chip down our carts. I think people who rent, we should have a minimum community standard on what we are willing to accept as far as those people who are able to drive our carts, whether that's a minimum of licensed drivers only or a minimum of 18-year-olds or 21-year-olds. And if individuals want to go beyond the minimum standard, that's great, but we should at least have a community standard where we all agree this is a minimum age or this is the minimum requirement. And we should hopefully hope that if those, we find people who violate those, that we would send them packing. But the chipping down our carts should be first and foremost. And I think if we can then go to the golf cart registry where everyone agrees to register their cart, or majority of people register their cart with clear identifiable markings on the cart. So when we see bad behavior, we know who to contact and we can make those phone calls immediately. I think that's a place for us to start, and then we can go beyond that as we see how we're progressing. But I think we have to start somewhere, rather than just continually going around in circles and having no resolution. We need to start somewhere, and then we can move forward from there.
Okay,
David, and then Linda.
So yeah, I think the thing I, as an NCIC person on their program for rentals, I think one of the things I intended to do once I've talked and gotten the UCCA's board approval is to talk to Matt. And same as I was doing with Brian, is that I'm not certain when my renters check in, I mean, they sign a form, they give copies of their driver license, let's say. I don't think anyone is really making an emphasis on check-in, because sometimes those people check in after hours. There's no one checking them in. There's just a little tag on the cart. They just pick it up. They do their thing. It seems clear to me that in like either like the NCICs of the world or the other rental property folks should have to at least, or should be a re-emphasis on like, hey, this is a problem. It's a safety problem. It's here's all the bad things that are going to happen. And if you do have someone driving that's not a licensed driver, then we're going to take away your cart and you won't get one back, or you're going to get fined $200 or whatever. And they actually then would have to follow it up and do it. Now, a golf cart registry, which we've had prepared for, I don't know, probably almost a year now, probably ready to roll out if there's some details that everybody have to agree to, but it could be a part of that. But until the people who are actually, the owners and the people who are renting their homes and the rental companies aren't making emphasis about the safety issue, someone's is going to continue to go on and they're going to ignore it. Once that happens a few times, I think that word will get around that it's not a thing to be messed around with. It might start curbing it. It's all not going to solve every problem there is, but we've got to start somewhere. But like you said, Swin, no, you didn't. I don't think you said on that one, but somewhere along the way, we're all going to have to be prepared to take some negative rental reviews, because once you take someone's golf cart for the week because little Johnny jumped in the cart without their parents' permission and they lost a golf cart, they're not going to be very logical in their review. So we're going to have to decide there's a tipping point. We're tired of it, and we're tired enough of it to take whatever the consequences are of doing something reasonable and rational to try to address this issue, or at least to get started.
Linda?
So from all this Facebook, information, we have chosen to change our procedures because it's opened our eyes so much. And we've realized that we have not really informed our guests as much as we probably should have, because they sign the contract. First of all, just one person signs the contract out of the entire group. They take responsibility, obviously, but does the rest of the group even know? Do their kids know? And how much are we really informing them? So just over the last week, or even the few days, really, we've continued to change what we're doing. And, can it be continued to be changed? Absolutely. But I can tell you what we've already decided to change is we've asked our property managers to change some things on when they check guests in and what they're telling them. We have decided to leave something at the house in a paper format for them to see in a frame or something that clearly designates what is going on the island and what the golf carts are to be used for and how. We're putting something on the golf carts. And I've also asked people that we're friends with that live on the island to look out for our carts. And if they see anyone that is driving recklessly, drunk, or underage, to send me pictures. So we're taking responsibility. And I've already sent, and I've sent it to a few people, an email to our guests that are there right now, informing them of what happened last night. And I'm going to use that email each week with our guests to inform them the dangers of it and to clearly ask them to inform their children that are there or their other guests, because it's a serious matter. And I think if we continue to educate our guests, the more information we give them, I don't think they can really come back to us and give us negative reviews if we pull a cart, because we have a paper trail.
Carrie?
I just wanted to share that I just reached out to Tom Rinaldi, the president of the Safety Harbor Club. And I had asked him whether we could maybe offer up Skylar from Safety Harbor Club to do the chip downs for people. And he said, sure, go for it. So I don't know if we need to do a little bit more with the club before that's official, but I just wanted you to know that that's in motion and we're certainly open to it.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is at our board meeting next week, we'll probably identify a date to do a chip down event, and we'll put together a quick committee to reach out to all the golf cart repair people on the island to invite them to be part of it and encourage them to make it free, right? And then we'll pick a weekend or 2 weekends, probably owners week. There'll be a lot of people here.
Yeah.
We do something like that where you can go to 5 different places and you just get it chipped down.
Owners week. We won't be here.
I think that's a great
We'll just
start.
one outside of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
think that's a great start, Swin, but I think it would also be nice to know that we have somebody that if people aren't able to do it on those days, they have
You
an
go
option.
anytime.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Lynn, did you have another question? You still have your hand up from earlier?
Oh, no, sorry. I didn't mean to. Sorry.
No worries. So look, we'll, as UCCA, we'll dive, heavy back into golf cart stuff and start fashioning what we can do. What we can't do as UCCA is spread bad info, right? So we can't go out and say, hey, you got to be 16. We can suggest to the community that you should, make the minimum age 16 or 18 or 21. We'll figure out what that recommendation is. We can recommend to the community to chip down your carts, but we can't force you to do it. But what I would encourage all of us to do is attend more meetings like this. If people will attend, I'll do one of these meetings every month. I'll spend as many hours or days with the community trying to figure out things that can help solve problems, right? We're not going to solve everything on our island, but we can get small victories here and there to make life better and more manageable. But I don't know if Bonnie's still on the call yet. And she brought up ideas that I think are great, that have been floated over the years, but never executed because, all of our companies that serve us on this island are not super involved in the community of the island. So things like, hey, could we have signage over at Island Girl? Could we have signage into the Island Club, sort of welcome center on the mainland while people are waiting? They have a TV on the wall. Could we have a loop, going, hey, kids can't be driving carts or whatever, right? Can we have captains as they're pulling in, 10 minutes before they're pulling in, sort of speak off 5 of those community standards. Remember, you're vacationing in a neighborhood, no reckless behavior, no, watch your noise levels, all those kinds of things. We need help from our community for this organization to get those things done, right? We're 9 people with very different amounts of time that we have to dedicate to things. We meet, once every month or 2 months. We try to get together on things, and it's everything from community building things like, a chili cook-off to the visitor guide that Paula's, spearheaded, to golf cart registries. But we need our members in the community to help us with this. Like, we need to know people's expertise. If you're a graphic designer, we could probably use your help, right? If are there expertise that you have? If you got a great, sort of TV voice or radio voice, hey, can we, create a sort of loop spot, and then let's approach Island Club and go, will you put this on the TV in your welcome center, kind of thing. So I would encourage everyone to please show up to these meetings and let's talk as a community, and we can figure out some of these things. The golf cart thing, no matter what we figure out over the next months or years, we're going to be yelling about it for years. I'm just telling you, it's going to be a hard one to fully solve. So, any other comments?
Peggy has her hand up.
Oh, Peggy.
Hi, I like your ideas, Swin, about registering carts. Everybody should have their cart registered, then it would be identifiable, not just a sticker saying what the name of your beach house is. As we saw in that one picture, that kid was covering it with his hand. Crazy. It's kind of like having a license plate on a car, easy to see. Somebody just reads the numbers and then check it on, and especially if somebody's cart was stolen, it's a good way. But I think the registering of the carts, the chipping down, and I do feel that in the future, we could still somehow share the message that it's all for island and public safety. These reasons why we're saying this, to slow down. I know it's fun, but we all need to slow down and all of that. And I do think that, maybe people aren't ready for it yet, but someday I think there could be a team of some volunteers who are on the island who want to just patrol in the evening. You don't know what's going on if nobody's out there. And it seems like the driving on the beach is after sunset and when it's dark. And these kids whipping around on the streets mostly is during the day. I don't know why they're not in their pool or in the ocean. That's why they came, but that's a whole nother story. But, there could be people who would volunteer to just drive around and see what's going on. Maybe you would stop a problem before it happens.
Good old school neighborhood watch.
Right. It doesn't have to cost money.
Yeah.
If we lived there, we would do it, but we don't live there. Not yet.
Eric?
Hi, everybody. Eric Meyer, my wife and I are new members of the group and just recently bought a lot over in Oyster Shell. Really pleased to be a part of this organization. I'm really impressed with the discussion tonight. I have to say that I've had my own run-ins with just about being squashed once or twice with the golf carts and in the short time that I've been around North Captiva. So I do recognize a little bit of what the conversation is. I think that the variety of ideas is exactly the right way to approach this. There isn't going to be a single solution, but lots of solutions that come together. I think the direction is really good. Looking forward to supporting it in all the ways that I can. So thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Anyone else want to comment on golf cart stuff, ideas that haven't been floated? By the way, I just want to do a shout out. Carrie Williams, you look very sharp tonight. Very, very sharp.
Yep, I appreciate that.
He doesn't have on any pants.
I've been in trial.
I believe that.
Show us your lap, Carrie.
You want me to stand up? I don't even have.
don't want to stand
up,
no.
Carrie.
I don't even have underwear on. So
Some bad mental image.
Abort.
Some things you can't unsee, so don't do it.
All right. Well, let's move on from that. Look, I can assure you UCCA will be committed to diving back into golf carts. And for me, it really comes down to community standards. What can we suggest to the community, whether it's the community at large, whether it's a subset like those who rent and everything. All we can do is do our best to put together what we as a community feel are the best standards and the best ideas, and then try to disseminate that information and one by one get to people. But also as members and as the community, once we do that, we need all of you to do word of mouth and a little peer pressure, right? If you chip down your cart, ask your 3 closest friends on the island, have you chipped your carts down? Have you chipped your carts down? Have you chipped your carts down? I think one of my best cheerleaders is Frank Sparrow. Thank you, Frank. You know, it's like, he knows, because once he chipped his carts down, his life was better. So anyway, so we'll move on from that. And then toward to the end, basically, is there any other business, any other topic that we have not covered that someone wants to go, or Ann?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to give out a shout for Lisa Walker, who had to leave. She wanted to remind everybody about the homeowners party, which is going to be on October 22nd at the Walker residence. There will be information forthcoming on the homeowners page on Facebook. So everybody mark your calendars. It was a great event last year. I'm sure it's going to be a great event this year. And of course, I think we're all very grateful to the Walkers for hosting that. So thanks, Lynn.
Awesome.
We'll also try and send that information out. David, if once we get it, we'll try and send it in one of our community updates.
Yeah, really, just to follow that up, if you're sort of new to the island or not, and we're not at the centennial of the island last year and the Walkers party, it's awesome. You should definitely plan to be here the third week of October, like the 16th through the 23rd. It's gonna be a very festive week on the island. Yeah, that's her party, but there'll be other things that whole week. So you should mark the date and plan to be here. Cool. All right, any other business, y'all? Nope. All right, public comment on non-agenda items. I kind of think that's the same thing as other business. Any other comments? All right, if not, then do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I motion.
I'll second.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thanks everyone for showing up. I'm available if anyone ever wants to reach out to me, talk about any of these things, reach out. Thank y'all.